Welcome, everyone, to the Trailblazing Leaders podcast. It's my goal to bring you insights and wisdom from some of the most exceptional business leaders today. Leaders who have a track record of driving outstanding business growth and results from their deep passion for attracting, growing, and retaining top talent who inspire outstanding team performances. During each episode, my guests will be sharing their expertise and stories and innovations that cover a range of trailblazing leadership topics, such as their philosophy of leadership, how they got to their role, and the art and science of creating an organizational culture which attracts and retains great talent. On today's episode, we welcome Renee Hollinger. Renee is the Chief People Officer at Salt Security, an API security company. Salt Security's platform is designed to prevent API attacks using machine learning and AI to automatically and continuously identify and protect APIs. Prior to joining Salt Security, Renee held the positions of Executive Vice President of Human Resources for Iron Source and had HR leadership roles at well-known companies such as Warner Brothers, Gap, and Levi Strauss. Let's dive into today's conversation. Renee, clearly you have incredible expertise, but you know what? Let's start by telling everyone who's listening, what is an API and why is it so important to business and security today?
Sure. So an API is an application program interface. And what that means is there are different technology stacks in every organization, and they keep growing, right? There's more and more applications, and the API is how they talk to each other. So when information travels, we're protecting that specifically in those APIs. And because APIs are expanding at such a rate, some companies don't even know how many APIs they have, where they are. So we help them not only discover them, but keep them safe.
Well, it's incredible because you obviously raised a lot of funds. You're in Series F, a very successful company. What's the philosophy of that's driving your success besides a great product?
Thank you. It is absolutely a great product, but I will say it's great people. Great people really, I found in my 30 plus years in HR and in business, that great people really, when you bring them together with a common goal, if you can create a culture that's exciting to them, they make all the difference in the world.
I have a friend who works at SpaceX, and he says they work day and night because everybody has a common goal. They all want to go to space.
That's right. It's like having this feeling of you're working towards something bigger than just yourself with a group of people that you respect and admire, and you know what to expect from.
So I think this next question plays into that, which is, and we talked at the beginning, is what is keeping you up at night? What are you most worried about in your role? And I think it ties back to your engineer. So what are you doing with this? Talk to us. Tell me about it.
So our entire engineering group and product group is in Tel Aviv right now. We have 100 employees there. And it's been a rough year, to say the least. And we work very closely. We're always traveling back and forth, but of course that's come to a stop. But really, it's just about the safety of our employees at this point. And are they getting what they need? And do they feel like they can do their best work? And it's been challenging. But I have to say, I'm so proud of our folks. They're so resilient and they're so focused on the work because they feel like that's what's keeping their life normal. So they have been all in, I have to say.
Can I have you unpack that specifically? And here it is. You have your critical employee base of engineers halfway around the world. How are you really taking care of them? What do you really do when you hit the ground or call or have a Zoom meeting? Can you be specific for me?
Absolutely. I think in the very beginning, where we really demonstrated everything we could do for them, we did a little bit of everything, anything we could do to support them. Some of our employees, of course, had to go back to the Army, got called back. So they needed flexible schedules and we took care of that. Some people needed childcare because, their partner was called back and they were working. So we've really tried to help them in any way we can. And one of the things we did is we made sure that the office became a safe haven for everyone. So if they needed to bring their children, we created an area for them to bring their children to work. We created, we always have meals and food for everyone, and we made sure that we could get them fresh produce, and we would do anything we can, just little things to make sure they knew they were being cared for. And they definitely, I think, returned that favor by being all in and working even through these crazy times.
So what I hear is authentically caring. It doesn't have to be expensive,
Exactly.
but if it touches the heart, it helps their life, it shows you really are a people organization. It has a huge impact on how they feel about you and their passion they bring every day.
Absolutely. And we really, as a group, take the time to say, how are you really? What do you need? How can we help you? And I think that is something that is, just part of our culture. We recently actually articulated our values.
Yes.
And the one thing I do small groups cross-functionally, 10 people at a time to talk about what it really feels like to work at SALT. And every single time they said, you guys get it right. We feel cared for and supported. We care about each other. And that is clearly one of our values.
I think we're approaching, we are in an era where the workforce are not cogs in the wheel. The companies that are truly people-centric with people-centric managers who have authentic values are the ones that are winning the talent roles. And I suspect you have very high engagement and high retention rates because you walk your talk.
Yeah. And we measure all of that to make sure we are. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think authenticity and trust in the workplace are foundational and should be.
Yes. What's the role of your CEO in taking care of the people?
Absolutely.
And what's your relationship with your CEO and in this?
So our CEO is wonderful. He is based out of Tel Aviv, and we actually have two co-founders. So both Michael and Roy. Michael's in the US and handles our go-to-market part of the business. Roy is in Israel and handles all of the, he handles everything, but oversees day in and day out the engineering and product. And I would say it's why I joined SALT, because they do care deeply. And because they demonstrate it. We do a all hands every 2 weeks. And they always are looking for feedback, asking the question about how people are, what we need. We do a survey after each of those meetings saying, tell us what's on your mind. We want to hear from you. We do an open Q&A. Everybody can ask anything at any time. There's no, vetting of the questions, any of that. We are really transparent. And Roy and Michael represent that every single day.
That's fantastic. Mm-hmm. That's the pattern I've been hearing on every one of my podcasts. Mm-hmm. When the CEO is an authentic people person and they're not protective and trying to control what is said, the whole organization understands that from the top, we are there. We're there for you, and we are authentic in our approach.
That is our responsibility as leaders. Absolutely.
Yes. So now you have a great career in HR. I think it would be great for the audience to get a sense of, given your previous roles, what have you learned on your journey and what shaped who you are today as a talent leader?
Yeah. I keep learning every day. I always think, is there ever going to come a time where I know it all? And there isn't. There's just, I get surprised every day and I find I need to learn new things every day. But I did learn early on in my career, really about that authenticity. You meet so many HR people who have this facade, who follow the rules, who just talk about, what you need to do. And I found that being my authentic self, having a sense of humor in what can be a very challenging job, and being just open and honest and kind has served me well. Being authentically me, being transparent, and setting expectations around what's expected of you as a human being at work. And getting everyone to align to those things has been just not only the most meaningful part of my career, but the most fun too.
Did you always know you were a people person?
Yeah, you kind of know those things. Yes.
All right. When you tell me about the philosophy of talent development.
Yes.
What do you and what types of talent development programs are you deploying, and how are you making sure they're being successful?
Absolutely. So I have to tell you, my employees laugh at us because we survey everything, and we but just 2 questions: scale of 1 to 10, how'd it go? How could we improve it or do it better or differently? Comments. Every time we do any training, any meeting.
Do you use Slack for your survey or use SurveyMonkey? What do you use for these
We
quick
use
surveys?
HiBob as our HRIS, and
Oh,
we can do
good.
a survey through there, or we can do it through Google. So
Okay,
either one.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you.
So we do our engagement survey through HiBob and those short surveys just through Google.
Okay. So you measure everything.
We measure everything, and we don't have to guess. That was probably my biggest learning is if we get our employees to tell us what they need, we can deliver on that as long as they're, we're asking the question. So we ask the question every time.
What are they telling you? What do they want?
Oh, they're telling us things like that they love the transparency that in our meetings. If there's a training, when we did the culture training, that was actually, we talked, did those small groups. And I, of course, did a survey, and they were just so happy to talk about what SALT means to them and what it feels like to work here and what we can create together. And I also hear that because we do it cross-functionally as well, that they get to meet new people that maybe they haven't worked with directly. And it really helps build this community. So we get reinforcement of the things we're trying to do when they work. And when they don't, we hear that too.
Yeah. Yes. This feedback loop is the most critical aspect for company leaders and managers, and that it doesn't need to be a 20-question annual employee engagement.
Simple.
If it's just 2 questions, as you do, I have to commend you. Rapid, consistent feedback is better than extensive feedback that never gets acted on.
That's right. It keeps me, honest in what I'm doing. So we're doing it for for our people, and we're hearing directly from them what they want and need.
And when you measure employee engagement,
yes,
you said you use your HiBob as your system.
Yes.
What is your key question or scoring that you feel like, this is an honest measure? It really is a reflection of our engagement level.
Yeah. So, we ask a lot about, the true engagement questions of how likely are you to recommend it to a friend? Are you proud to work at SALT? Those kinds of things. And that is the main score we look at. But we also ask things about your manager. Are you getting everything you need from your manager? Are they having one-on-ones with you? We ask about communication in general. Do you understand, the goals of the organization? And are you feeling like you can contribute at the level that you can? Do you feel valued? Are you, how's your workspace? Because many of us are remote these days, fully remote.
Yes.
So do you have everything you need to be successful? So we look at all of them. But what we really measure ourselves on is if there's something we're not doing well and we take it on as a focus, can we improve it in 6 months? So for us, when I did my first engagement at SALT, we had some opportunity to do communication better. And that led us to doing those all hands every 2 weeks. And I do a weekly, just here's what's going on at SALT this week. And people are really appreciative. And we saw that score go up the next time we took the engagement survey. And those are the things that we really try to fix and improve upon. If I can demonstrate that we've done that, we've done our job.
Thank you. You know what? You answered my question, which is, have you had a challenge with engagement and how did you overcome it? And the answer is, yeah, we did. And we clearly improved our communication frequency, improved our communication method. And just that alone improved your engagement.
Exactly. And when I started too, we were a little siloed. So we worked on that. How do we bring cross-functional teams together, cross-geography teams together? And part of that value conversation that we talked about earlier was bringing those teams together so they could get to know and appreciate each other.
Do you find you have to provide specialized training on how to manage remote works in different time zones? And how do you handle, again, global management of remote teams?
Why the silo existed. We only overlap with our Israeli office in the US Monday through Thursday morning. That's it. So we really have to talk about how to make the most of that time, first of all. So those are that scheduling of those mornings are critical, right? Most important meetings and follow-up expectations. So the good news is I'll write an email at the end of my day and my team will pick it up and it'll be there first thing in the morning. So there is some benefit to that too. I can sleep and they're doing the work and we wake up and it's done. So that's the good part. But sometimes things do get lost because there's so much going on and so much, it's so hard not to, you can't just pick up the phone. So we really do talk about communication and expectations and how to do it better because it is, it's rare that we spend, quality time together, particularly now with everything going on in Israel, where I would go every quarter and I haven't been back since October.
Yes. Yes. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm sure they want you to come visit, and it's a worrisome time.
I just can feel, good days and bad days there. It's a tough one. It really is.
Yes.
It's such a
Yes.
small country that, everybody knows someone who is impacted in some way. So
I'm right there with you for many
yeah,
reasons. I'm there.
yeah, it's just,
It's
yeah.
it's interesting. Do you worry about manager burnout? I was reading a statistic that Zoom meetings create this incredible stress because we're not used to being stationary. We're having
Yes,
to look at a little screen, and we don't get all of our other senses engaged.
it's so
Have you
true.
found that's kind of gone away, or no, we actually have to watch that?
Yeah, we do need to watch that. I think it is, I work from home most days and it can be challenging. I mean, by the end of the day, after, 8 Zoom meetings, it's exhausting and you just don't
Yes.
expect it to be, right?
Yes.
So we do coach on that, and we do try to get together as much as we can. There is nothing that's going to replace an in-person conversation. So, for example, the executive team at Salt is on their way to San Francisco right now, and we're meeting this week. So we can meet in person. We do that quarterly, and we try to get our employees together as well because it is important to have that also. But one of the things that I think really helps with the Zoom piece and the fatigue is we say block time on your calendar to do focused work. It's really hard, particularly in tech, you know, to multitask all day long every day. So
Yes.
block it
Yes.
out on your calendar. When Israel is sleeping, that's my time to get my project work done. My afternoons are pretty much project focused, and we all do that, and we have to let people know that that's okay. Like you got to do that.
Yeah. Well, every professional athlete spends time practicing and then top performing and then recovering. I think
Exactly.
business people are not good at discipline in terms of they're running around a lot. I'm going this activity, that activity, this
Yes.
activity, that
And there's
activity,
always so much to do, right?
and they
It's
don't get that
never
cognitive
ending.
focus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So focus is important. And to your point, taking a break. We want employees to take their vacations. We want them to enjoy their weekends. I know that there are going to be some times where you might have to work a little late or, give a little more, but then we want you to be able to recover from that because startups are crazy. I call them messy. And you know what? You got to take care of yourself in order to play in this game.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. And clearly at the space and time and area that you're playing in, and I suspect the speed that you're playing in, and we all need recovery and new fresh perspectives to help us recharge.
Yes, absolutely. And we try to do some of that as well from an engagement standpoint. May actually is our step challenge month, and we have a whole competition of who can
Oh,
get the most
nice.
steps in. So we try to do some fun things that get people moving and out from behind the computer and all that good stuff.
That's nice. I I want you to take a second with me and reflect on your career journey. What was a situation that was incredibly challenging or unexpectedly challenged that you learned so much of? You want to share that with someone else.
Yeah.
What happened? What was the circumstance? That's like, oh, this is a story I'll never forget,
Yes.
but I want you to hear this story.
Yeah. Um, well, there's many of those, I have to say. I've been lucky enough to have the most amazing career and the most amazing opportunities and met some incredible people along the way. So I am so grateful for all of that. But one of my favorite moments was I was with a startup about 3 jobs ago called Reltio. And we had offices in engineers in St. Petersburg, Russia. And we also had engineers in India. And talk about two very different cultures. And they were very siloed at that point when I got there, and they didn't really understand each other. The cultural differences were so unique. So I'm like, wow, I haven't dealt with this amount of different culture before. And so we really made sure that we brought people together in person. We also made sure that there were India employees that reported into Russia managers and Russia employees that reported into India managers. And then we set the foundation through our values and culture that said, okay, we are going to be candid and kind. That's what we're shooting for.
Nice.
Because India tends to be very kind. Russia tends to be very candid. We wanted to mix the two and meet in the middle. And so that was sort of how we got there. But I will say, bringing people together, having some really transparent conversations about expectations, about what it's like to live where you live, about how you were, we share our own personal stories many times. And every time people walk away and go, wow, we're all just people wanting the same things, having the same intentions, doing, the right thing. And how can we appreciate each other more for the things that we have in common than for what are perceived differences?
Yes.
And those differences we celebrate, right? So we started celebrating Diwali as an organization to honor our India employees.
Wonderful.
And things like that we became a community of all these global different groups. And it was a really amazing thing to see.
That's such a nice thing. And thank you for sharing that story. I developed a program or a piece of content called the Magnificent Manager Talent Advantage. And there's 3 practice areas, and one is about you. And one of the behaviors within that section is story sharing and storytelling to build connection.
Yes.
And we as humans have grown up on storytelling and listening as our educational method, but nothing builds bonds like sharing
personal stories,
sharing that story. And here are stories of culture. And then you, as you point out, is, hey, we're really just the same people all around the world, all wanting the same thing. We're not really that different.
We're really not. We have some bad assumptions, I think, of each other sometimes, and we have to let go of those. But people are amazing that way. They find a way to connect.
And I give you so much credit for realizing I have to invest the money, and obviously your leaders, to put you in person, because that's 6 feet. That if you and I were together, just 6 feet, we would have a whole different feeling and intensity than we're having now. Not that it's bad, but that's human nature. That's the neuropsychology of in-person communication that we are evolved from.
Exactly. And I've seen it work, and it just is an amazing thing to watch an organization come together with such, unique cultures and appreciating each of those cultures.
It's pretty incredible, from Russia to India to Israel. I can't even imagine. So the numbers of different cultures you've worked with, but I'm going to give you a last softball question.
Okay.
Which is, what advice do you have to the up and coming HR trailblazing leaders? What would you recommend they stay on their toes about? If you had 3 to 5 pieces of wisdom,
okay,
let's share it.
Yeah. So I think the first thing, and we've talked about it, is to be yourself. Don't put on that facade. Don't be the rule person. Be yourself. Be your wonderful self, whatever that is. Bring your whole self to work. Be open and find a way to be trusted and trusting and authentic, because that's the first thing. I think the second thing is, it's actually a thought that I've had over the years, and I actually bring it to each of the organizations when we're hiring, for example. We look for 2 things, always, no matter what the industry, where I am. I call it the willingness factor. I want someone who's willing to do what it takes, because they're curious, they want to learn, they're all in. You feel that passion. Be that person. And the second is learning agility. Be the person who can learn quickly and apply it. Those 2 things, I think, make for any human being to be successful in their career.
So that becomes your filter of hiring.
Yes.
Do you have a final piece of wisdom beyond curiosity and learning?
Yes. It's easy to think we've seen it all, but we have not. And it's easy to know, oh, been here, done that. I don't need to ask questions. I don't need to be curious because I've seen this before. But I have found curiosity pays. And I talk about it a lot, day in and day out, and even train managers on how to be curious, because the best answers to the problems we have to deal with every day come from asking the right questions.
Yeah.
So be genuinely curious and don't just jump to that conclusion.
Yeah. Yeah. So the hubris, thinking I've been there, done it, I know everything, is what gets many executives and companies in trouble.
Exactly.
And there's nothing more powerful than a question.
That's right. And things change and great ideas come from all over. So let's ask. Let's find out.
Yes. As we know, we have 2 ears and a mouth for a reason, to listen more than we talk. But it's the question. The question allows the open platform for the revealing of the unexpected.
That's right.
Which is where I'm sure great ideas, great engineering, great connections all happen from.
Exactly. And I love hearing what people have to say, because I am constantly surprised and delighted by what they do.
Well, I think SALT is very lucky to have you as their CHRO. It's been a pleasure to be with you today.
Russell,
thank you for sharing your wisdom, your time, your talent, your stories. And I encourage everyone to continue to listen to our future episodes of the Trailblazing Leaders podcast, where we have more exceptional talent leaders who will be sharing their wisdom with you. So
Russell,
Renee, thank you very much for today.
It was my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This podcast with Renee Hollinger is a great one for you to listen to. Renee has worked with cultures from Russia to India and everything in between. She is sharing her knowledge of over 30 years working for some of the largest brands. She's going to share with you how she's solving one of the most unique, emotionally difficult challenge any HR executive could be facing right now. She's going to share with you how she uses curiosity and questioning to create connection, and one of the most effective ways of which he improved engagement by just changing one simple action. So it's a great episode. I now want to welcome you to the Trailblazing Leaders podcast. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Trailblazing Leaders podcast. If you want to check out more episodes, you're going to find them on all major streaming platforms such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and of course, YouTube. The podcast is also available at our website at kernandpartners.com. Thank you for being with us today, and we'll see you on our next episode.